Hello students. In the last videos, Vijayashri madam has finished the topic that is biological classification. It was chapter 2 from the unit 1 diversity in the living world. In that, you studied how R.H. Whittaker has given or proposed the five kingdom classification, in which the five kingdoms named by him or defined by him were Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. So, this you have studied in detail in the biological classification lesson. Now we are going to the third lesson, that is the plant kingdom. Chapter number 3 from unit 1 diversity in the living world. From here onwards, you will be studying the plant kingdom in detail, like you have studied the Monera, Protista, and fungi kingdoms in detail in your last lesson. The kingdom plantae, a short introduction, is already given to you in the last lecture given by Vijayashri madam. So here let us start with the lesson that is plant kingdom. Before going into the plant kingdom, first let us study some of the systems of the biological classification. Now, what happened when there was the particular study of the plant kingdom? Scientists started to find out the different systems for the classification of plants, and they found out few systems for the classification of plants. They were the artificial system, natural system, and phylogenetic system. Let us see one by one. First was the artificial classification system. Now, the artificial classification system was the earliest system of classification. It was based on the vegetative characteristics or superficial morphological characteristics. Now, here two things are there, new words. Vegetative characteristics. Vegetative characteristics are going to be the different parts of the plant, you can say, or superficial morphological characteristics. Morphological, morphology, the term means study of the external features. By looking at the plant from outside externally, they had put forth the artificial system of classification, considering the characteristics like the habit where it is growing, the color of the plant, number, shape of leaves, etc. So, based upon such a type of superficial external characteristics, morphological characteristics, the artificial classification system was given. This artificial classification system was given by Carl Linnaeus. He gave this artificial system based on the androecium structure. What is androecium? Androecium is nothing but the male reproductive part of the flower. We will study about this androecium in further classes in detail. But this artificial system of classification had certain drawbacks, disadvantages, because of which it could not be carried forward. What were those drawbacks? The drawbacks were because the artificial system was going to be focusing mainly only on external features, many closely related species were separated. So, when the discovery started, they started studying the internal features. At that time, they got to know that only based upon the external features, we can't put the plants into specific groups. So, the closely related species were placed far away due to these type of artificial system of classification. So, it was discarded. Other drawback was in this artificial system, equal weightage was given to vegetative and sexual characteristics. But this was not acceptable because the vegetative characters are easily affected by environment. Now, for example, in the sexual characteristics of plant, the way the plant is producing the seed, how the flower formation is there, from which the fruit formation will take place, from which the seeds are going to be produced. So, all this is going to be specified. But the vegetative external characters of the plant can be differed. So, because of this, many reasons, the artificial classification system was not carried forward. Then came the natural system of classification. So, in the natural system of classification, they were based on the natural affinities among the organisms. That is, it considered the external features and the internal features of the organisms. Internal features means what? The ultrastructure, that is the detailed structure, anatomy within the plant. Here you can see this is going to be the anatomical study. You are cutting opening a part and you are going to be studying. This is going to be morphology, only looking at the external feature. This is morphology, only external. Here in this one you are going to be studying the internal feature. So that is anatomy. Embryology, phytochemistry. Based upon all these internal features, the natural classification system was given by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker, and they gave this classification system for the flowering plants, that is the angiosperms, for the plants which are producing the flowers. For them they gave this system. Then there again came the next type of system, which was the phylogenetic classification system. This phylogenetic classification system was based on evolutionary relationship among the organisms. From where the plants have come, what is their ancestors, who were their ancestors, that is the evolutionary relationship. So this assumes that organisms in the same taxa have a common ancestor. So if you have to place an organism into a taxa, into a group, then they must have a common ancestor. So that was the phylogenetic classification system, which was based on the evolutionary relationship. Then, apart from these three systems, there were some other systems which have been put forth for the classification. Among that, one is the numerical taxonomy. So, what is this numerical taxonomy? Numerical taxonomy is based on all the observable characteristics. Whatever characteristics are going to be observed, they were stored using the computers. It is carried out using the computers. And in the computers, they were going to be storing this information based on the numbers and codes. So, numbers and codes are assigned to all the characters. Here you can see the numbers and codes were assigned to the different taxa, and based upon this, the characters were being stored in the computers. By this manner, hundreds of characters can be easily considered, can be equally considered. Then another one system is the cytotaxonomy. Cytotaxonomy is based on cytological information. Cytological means the cell, the structural and functional unit of the cell is going to be containing the chromosomes. So these here you can see, these are the chromosomes which are going to be present in the cell within the nucleus. So what are the number of chromosomes? How many number of chromosomes are there? What is the structure of the chromosome, behavior of the chromosome? Based upon that, the cytotaxonomy is done. Then another is chemotaxonomy. So chemotaxonomy uses the chemical constituents of the plant. It studies the chemistry of the plant. What is the chemical nature of the plants? So based upon that the taxonomy is done. So these are going to be some other systems of classification. So just a summary here. So which are the different types of classification? This will be the also your notes. So first will be the artificial classification. It is the oldest classification and it is based on a few vegetative and sexual characters. Natural classification system. It is based on natural affinities among the organisms and of the organisms in their external and internal features. In the natural system, both the external and the internal features were considered. Then came the phylogenetic classification system. In the phylogenetic, evolutionary relationships were considered. Then the numerical taxonomy. This was done by using the computers in the form of numbers and codes which are assigned to all the characters and data are processed. And then the cytotaxonomy, which was based on cytological information like chromosome number, structure and behavior. And finally, the chemotaxonomy, which is based on the chemical constituent of the plant. So these were the different classification systems of plant kingdom. And using these different classification systems, finally the classification of the plant kingdom was done. Classification means the kingdom plantae was subdivided into groups. Let us see how the kingdom plantae is subdivided. The kingdom plantae can be largely divided into two branches. One is the higher algae and the second is the embryophyta. You may ask me why higher algae. The lower algae, the blue-green algae and the chemosynthetic algae are going to be placed, or you can say the smaller algae are going to be placed in the kingdom that is Protista. In the Protista and even some of them into other groups they are placed. Here in the case of the kingdom Plantae, only the higher algae are placed, that is the larger in size you can say, and which were going to be producing their own chlorophyll, who were photosynthetic. You know, you have studied the characteristics of plant kingdom. In the kingdom plants, they have to be autotrophic, that is they have to produce their own food. They have to be photosynthetic. They have to perform the photosynthesis, because of which they are going to be producing their own food. So in this manner, those algae which were a little bit larger, multicellular and doing the photosynthesis were placed in higher algae. The higher algae are of three types: Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae, also known as the green algae, brown algae and the red algae. Then coming to the second part, that is the embryophyta. Embryophyta group is further divided into bryophyta and tracheophyta. Bryophyta again is subdivided into liverworts and mosses, whereas tracheophyta is going to be again having three subgroups: pteridophyta, gymnospermae, angiospermae. Angiospermae is going to be of two classes, monocotyledonate and dicotyledonate. So in this manner, the classification of the kingdom Plantae was given. And in this lesson, that is plant kingdom, you are going to be studying all these groups in detail. The characteristics of all these groups you will be studying in detail in the chapter that is plant kingdom. So this is all about the classification of the plant kingdom. In my next video, we will be studying about the algae, that is your higher algae. I wish you all a very happy Deepavali. So let us meet on next Friday.